Hello again, everybody. I'm Roger Hoover. Glad to welcome you back to the Crimson Tide Sports Network, and welcome to Crimson Drive, presented to you by Coca-Cola. It is Thursday, May 27th, 2021, another busy time at the capstone for Alabama athletics, and right now a busy time in Hoover, Alabama for the SEC baseball tournament. I'm actually today not with you from our studios in Tuscaloosa, but rather my home in Birmingham, because Alabama's had a great run so far in the 2021 SEC baseball tournament, a run that we certainly hope will continue all throughout the weekend of the championship game on Sunday. But it's been a great week for Alabama baseball, a very busy week for our softball program as well, gearing up to host Super Regionals in Tuscaloosa at the Rhodes House against Kentucky. We have to get to on today's episode of Crimson Drive as we start to take a look at our headlines and, first of all, what's coming up on the show this afternoon. We will start with the conversation I had earlier in the week with the Director of Athletics for the University of Alabama, Greg Byrne, as we discussed a lot of topics. He and I always get together about once a month to have a monthly chat about Alabama athletics, and we hit on a variety of topics as we finish up our run of conversations during the school year. Off for a couple months, but we'll have Greg back with us coming up in August, which you'll see here on Crimson Drive as well as on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. So a great conversation with the Director of Athletics, Greg Byrne. How about the rowing program? I failed to mention all the excitement about postseason for baseball. For softball, the rowing team is off to the Ncaa championships for the first time, so the head coach, Glenn Putyrae, will join us in a little bit. And then Tom Canterbury, Gray Robertson, our outstanding softball broadcasters, they will give us a full recap of Alabama's regional victory, especially the wins against Clemson last weekend, and look ahead to the Super Regionals against Kentucky. And then yesterday, after the crazy, controversial at times game between Alabama and Tennessee, Crimson Tide get the win 3-2 in 11 innings, and we'll hear Brad Bohannon's press conference from Hoover as he discussed Alabama's win and maybe gain a little more clarity on that play in the bottom of the ninth when it looked like Tennessee won. Turned out the game went to extras, and the Crimson Tide end up celebrating and get the victory. Looking at our headlines, we start with Crimson Tide baseball. Again, last weekend it was a tough finish to the regular season for Alabama, getting swept by Mississippi State in Tuscaloosa, but kind of hit the reset button for the postseason. Had a great win against South Carolina, 9-3 on Tuesday, behind a great start from Tyler Ross, and really everybody hit well in that ball game, especially Owen Diodati with a 2-run single, and then Jackson Tate with a big 3-run homer to left field. It's hard to hit home runs at Hoover Metropolitan Stadium. Tate did that for Alabama as the Crimson Tide again pick up the victory 9-3 over South Carolina. An upset win because Alabama was the 10 seed, South Carolina was the number 7 seed. Then yesterday, another upset victory. The 10th seeded Crimson Tide defeat the number 2 seed and the SEC Eastern Division champion Tennessee Volunteers 3-2 in 11 crazy innings. And again, coming up, we'll hear Coach Bohannon talk about the win and his post-game press conference. Now, coming up today, it's the third round matchup between Alabama and Florida. Once again, the Crimson Tide facing a team they did not see during the regular season, and we look forward to bringing you the coverage. Chris Stewart and I will have the call starting around 4:30, depending on how the earlier games go today at the Hoover Met, but our airtime should be 4:25 for a 4:30 Central first pitch between Alabama and Florida. Also, do want to note some award winners for Alabama baseball. The SEC awards were announced before the tournament began, and no surprise. At catcher, Sam Prater, first team All-SEC. Peyton Wilson, Alabama's second baseman, second team All-SEC. And then Zane Denton, who has a great glove, not only at third base, but also first base as well, as we found out. He is named to the All-SEC newcomer team. Zane Denton also a member of the All-Defensive team, along with Tyler Ross. Really no surprise to see Ross on that list. Started as a position player and has transitioned to being Alabama's Friday night pitcher and has defended his position extremely well. Crimson Tide softball team won the Ncaa Tuscaloosa Regional last week, especially knocking off Clemson. 2 big wins against the ACC champion Clemson Tigers. We went into the regional kind of thinking, all right, should Clemson really be in Alabama's regional? Well, the Crimson Tide certainly took care of the Tigers, winning 2 key matchups against Clemson on Saturday and Sunday to claim the regional crown. Now we're getting ready for the Super Regional. It's Alabama against Kentucky. The Wildcats won a regular season matchup, taking 2 out of 3 against Alabama, so now a best-of-3 series coming up this weekend. The winner going to Oklahoma City in the 2021 Women's College World Series. Can't wait to listen to Tom and Gray's recap of the regional and preview of the Super Regionals coming up. Also, we'll be hearing from the rowing coach for the University of Alabama, Glenn Putyrae, as Friday through Sunday, the Ncaa rowing championships are coming up for Alabama. Again, the first crew, 1v8 plus crew, will face Navy, Stanford, Rutgers, Syracuse, and Marist on Friday. And then also the 2v8 plus crew will face SMU, Washington, Brown, and Princeton. And Alabama also has a 1v4 plus crew that will take on Navy, Washington State, Virginia, Washington, and Northeastern. And explaining the format in just a little bit will be head coach Glenn Putyrae. A couple of quick notes as well. The Alabama football team, it was announced that the SEC opener against the Florida Gators will be coming your way on September 18th, Saturday, September 18th, down in Gainesville at 2:30 p.m. The game will be televised on CBS. So once again, we get another kickoff time announced for the upcoming Alabama football season. Track and field participating in Jacksonville, Florida in the 2021 Ncaa East preliminary meets, so good luck to Alabama in track and field meets. And then on the soccer side, Kat Rogers, who's had a great Alabama career, she was named the SEC Community Service Team member, so great honors for Kat Rogers, as well as all the Crimson Tide. Again, as we finish up the headlines, it's just been a busy stretch for Alabama athletics. So because it's been so busy, a really great time to catch up with the Director of Athletics, Greg Bryne, talking not only about all the sports we just mentioned that are going through their postseasons right now, but kind of a big picture view on what this year was like at the championship school, some notes as well about him joining the NCAA Division I Men's Basketball Committee and what that can mean for Alabama, as he's going to have to leave the room whenever the Crimson Tide name is being discussed. But great honor for Greg Bryne, plus a look ahead to what's coming up this summer and some projects that he and his staff are working on to gear up for what's coming up soon, the 2021 to 2022 school year. So I think you'll enjoy this conversation from earlier in the week with Director of Athletics, Greg Bryne. Greg, it's great to see you. Roll Tide.
Good to see you too, Roger. Roll Tide. Yeah, I'm sure everybody's rejoicing. They only have to hear from me one more time, but I'll look forward to having the time together today.
Well, we're certainly excited about it because, once again, it's a good time of the year for Crimson Tide athletics, a very busy time of the year with postseason baseball and softball. I know everyone's excited, first of all, for the Alabama softball team to continue what has been a remarkable run over the last few weeks.
Yeah, it has been a lot of fun. I tell you, it's a wonderful group of young women that have just put on a heck of a season. Murph just does a wonderful job with the team, as does his staff, and it was fun that the regulations have changed, that we've been able to have people there in a much greater number than what we were having before. And last weekend was a lot of fun, and we're excited to welcome Kentucky in this weekend, and we're certainly need to take this one game at a time, but anxious to hopefully put another good super regional together and see what can transpire after that. But got to take it one game at a time, and obviously Kentucky's really good, and that's why they're coming here. But it'll be fun on Friday at 12 o'clock when we get this thing going.
Yeah, what have you enjoyed about the atmosphere of the Rhodes House over the last couple weekends? And it's just remarkable as well, making super regionals each and every year. Patrick Murphy has done such an incredible job here.
Yeah, I'm guilty, as I'm sure most of us are, of taking things for granted that we had in our lives that we just kind of assumed would be here, and having full stadiums and packed arenas and things like that, it was just kind of a given. And I think over this last year, one of the things that you've heard me say probably on one of these podcasts is, athletics is one of the things that brings people together from all different backgrounds, political parties, socioeconomic status, race, religion, and we all come together for the Alabama Crimson Tide. We haven't been able to do that the same way in the last year, and I think we need that now more than any other time in our lives. And so getting the chance to be back together and celebrate together and celebrate the highs, and in the regional we didn't have a lot of lows, so that was encouraging. But even I went over to baseball this weekend, not to bring up something challenging, but it was a tough weekend for us. But still, to be back together is special. And I think that's what I've taken from it as much as anything. And then just watching such a talented group of athletes, work collectively hard over the last year to get where we are, really over their lifetimes, but even especially this last year, and to see it come together and advance to the now super regional. And we're looking forward for this opportunity to have a great weekend at the Rhodes House this coming weekend.
Well, you mentioned the Alabama baseball team, and of course, we're getting ready for it. Alabama playing South Carolina later this afternoon in Hoover, Alabama. Its first trip to the SEC tournament in 5 years. What can you say about the job Coach Bohannon and his staff have done to get Alabama back to this point?
Yeah, and actually, I'm dressed to head to Hoover shortly after we get done here to watch the team play, and I'm really proud of the job that Brad has done. He is a very smart coach. He took over a challenging situation, and I remember saying to myself at the beginning of the year, if we can get back to Hoover this year, that's a step in the right direction for us. And so we are back in Hoover. Obviously, it's been a tough year on the mound for us. I was talking to somebody, wasn't Brad, but somebody internal in the program, because he's not going to say it, but I'll say it. Three of our top 5 pitchers have combined to miss over half of the season. I think I think those numbers are accurate. That's going to have an impact on what you do, but as the AD, you got to look at it and say, look, where are we going collectively, and the way he recruits, the way he has built the program. I mean, it's a really solid group of kids. They're working the tail off. We need to go, obviously, compete against South Carolina today and see what can happen one at a time as well, like I talked about with softball. But I'm very bullish and excited about where the future of Alabama baseball is, and very pleased with the job that Brad has done to get us to this step, but look forward to continuing to grow more in the future.
Sticking with baseball for a moment, you as well as Coach Bohannon participated in a documentary called Uneven, talking about the college baseball scholarship issue. Everyone knows 11.7 equivalency scholarships for college baseball players. What was your mindset kind of going into that documentary? It was released by Matt Wyatt earlier this week.
Well, I've known Matt for a long time, back to my days at Mississippi State. He played football there and still is around the program a lot, and has really built a nice little media company, and was impressed with the production quality and the story that they told within that. And so, when I say this, we are truly at 11.7 scholarships here at the University of Alabama. There's been, there's some academic scholarship that our student athletes potentially can qualify for, just like any other student. But the bar is extremely high here at Alabama because of the academic progress we've made as an institution to be able to qualify for those. So it's not an easy bar to get over, and some schools have more flexibility. It is what it is. I'm not being critical of those schools, but it's a reality that we're facing. And so, I thought Greg Sankey's comments in it were very, very good, that you hate to be sitting in somebody's family room negotiating percentage of a scholarship as whether they're going to attend an institution or not. I wish it could be a head count sport, not equivalency sport. Just like, to be honest, across the board, you see all the pictures of all of our student athletes, each sport's represented. I wish we could do head count on all of them. So it's not a negotiation on what percentage. I think that would be good from an opportunity standpoint for more people to be interested in playing baseball. I love the game. I've been fortunate in my time at Arizona. We won the national championship in 12, made it the final game in 16, lost to Coastal Carolina on the last play of the game. And Omaha is one of the greatest sporting events you'll ever go to of any professional or college level. And I do think it's something that you want to try to have as level a playing field as you can when it comes to scholarships and how they are. We know at Alabama in football, we have 85 scholarships just like the rest of the SEC schools do. And, there's other things that separate you in ways, how you invest in your program and your strength conditioning and your academic support, your mental health, and all those different things. But when it comes to the foundational impact of scholarships, I do think whatever we can do to have that be a level playing field is a good thing. And so I thought Matt did a really good job telling that story.
Yeah, it really was a remarkable documentary, and again, talking about the college baseball scholarship issue, and I encourage everyone to check it out. Switching gears for a moment, we're talking about some postseason sports. We're talking about baseball and softball. How about the rowing team qualifying for the Ncaa championships? Another sign that Glenn Putyrae has this program moving in the right direction.
Yeah, Glenn's done a great job from the time he got here. We'd never been to the NCAA postseason in rowing. I admit when we hired Glenn, I had to read Rowing for Dummies. I didn't know a whole lot about the sport. But when we sat down, one of the things I do in hiring coaches is I'm intimately involved. I'm going to chair every coaching search that we have. I usually have a couple people involved from our department to go along in the process to help give me feedback of things I need to hear. But right away when we sat down with Glenn, he had done a remarkable job at Gonzaga, not a large public institution, which can obviously help you from a walk-on standpoint when it comes to rowing. Because you look at rowing, you're going to see a lot of former high school volleyball players, high school basketball players, high school athletes that maybe aren't good enough in that specific sport, but have athletic ability that translates well to rowing. And the job he did at Gonzaga, he wanted to be here at Alabama. I actually called my old high school assistant basketball coach, Mark Few, when Glenn got on the radar screen for us, and Few couldn't say enough good things about Glenn and how he fit within the culture of their department. And so I wanted to, I was really pleased when we were able to get Glenn and his family to come here to Tuscaloosa. Done a wonderful job, great culture within the program, and we finished second in the Big 12, which I know is weird to say this year, to Texas, and so that's the next mountain we got to figure out how to climb and get to. But I'm very excited about the job that he and his staff are doing, and the young women in the program to develop over the last several years to put us in this position. So this Sunday, I'm going to be down watching our rowing team compete in the NCAA championships for the first time. I'm excited to go do that.
Yeah, that's really special, and it just speaks to, again, the championship school mindset. We've talked about this in a couple of our interviews. Ever since Coach Oates said those words, we've seen so many great things happen for Alabama athletics. You got to be proud as we're getting close to the end of this school year that mindset is continued, and hopefully we'll be able to continue into next year.
Yeah, actually, Roger, when Regina and I were so fortunate to be able to come here, and Dr. Bell offered us this job, and Fess St. John, now our chancellor, and the trustees were so supportive of us coming here as well. But I told Dr. Bell, I said, I'm going to say this at our first all-staff meeting, and I did. I said, if we're going to keep score, we might as well try to win. And we have to do things the right way. We got to do the right things academically. We got to do the right things from a compliance standpoint, the right thing from a medical standpoint, everything across the board. But this is big time college athletics. This isn't church league basketball, and this is something that we're proud to compete in. And I want that to be the expectation for our department, that the young men and the young women that come here to the University of Alabama feel like they have a legitimate opportunity to compete for a Southeastern Conference championship. If you're competing for an SEC championship, you're competing on the national stage too. And except for rowing, you got to compete for a Big 12 championship. But other than that, that's what we want our mentality to be. And we're gonna have that approach. That doesn't mean every team every year is going to go have that type of success, but we want to believe that we have the foundational pieces in place to be extremely competitive in everything that we do. And I think because of our great history and all the wonderful people that we have and teams that we've had from the past, from the current state of where we are as a program, the opportunity to succeed. But I'm very excited about what the future looks like too, and that's all of us doing our part together, and that includes our fan base supporting in the great way that they do, and we can't thank them enough.
Sometimes those championships are in the classroom, and this past year for Alabama athletics has been tremendous. You have 10 programs with a 3.5 GPA or better. I mean, that's remarkable progress that we've seen on the academic front.
Yeah, it has to be a total commitment, first and foremost by our kids, by our student athletes. Secondly, by our coaches, saying this is a priority in what we do, and I'm extremely pleased with the approach our coaches take from an academic standpoint. And then it has to be something where you surround them with support the best that you can to make sure you're doing everything with academic integrity at the forefront, but at the same time too supporting the young men and young women to pursue the academic dreams they have. Now, sometimes in college athletics it gets criticized that you hear a young man or young woman say, "Hey, I want to be a chemistry major," and it was tough for me to do it. Well, that does happen at times, but we do have young men and young women graduate with engineering degrees, with science degrees, and a lot of them get business degrees and MBAs and things like that. And so we do have very good diversity in our academic offerings that our young people are taking on with their academic challenges, and I'm proud of all the work that they do for it.
Well, in several of these interviews, we've talked about your love of basketball. And, of course, you've been around basketball your entire life, and now you get to be a part of the Ncaa Division I Men's Basketball Committee. What can you tell us about this role that you'll have coming up for this upcoming year?
Well, it's a great honor. That's a committee that I had always had interest in. And when Greg Sankey called me and said he was going to nominate me to be the SEC rep, that meant a lot to me. I actually have a picture across from me here in my office at Bryant-Denny Stadium. My first year here, myself and a guy named Tom Jernstead. Tom was one of my mentors. Where the NCAA tournament is today is because of Tom Jernstead had his fingerprints all over it. Ran the Final Four and NCAA tournament for years and years, and was the NCAA staff member from the selection committee. And Tom unfortunately passed away in the last year, but I called his wife, Chris, and told her that I had been selected. I'm looking forward to going in and learning a lot. Obviously, I have to leave the room when Alabama gets discussed, and I need our fan base to hear this. They are very strict about that. That as soon as Alabama's name comes up, I have to walk out of the room. But I will be able to give perspective and be involved with the selection process. There is a lot of work that goes into it. I'll be watching a lot more basketball than I normally will during the course of the year. I'll be assigned to probably a couple conferences to be the liaison between that conference office and the NCAA basketball committee. But at the same time, too, I think it also bodes well and speaks highly of the job that Nate has done with our basketball program, our men's team, to have, the AD of our school be a part of that now, because we've been able to raise the profile of Alabama men's basketball, and that leads to opportunities like this. So I'll do my very best to represent our great university and represent the SEC, and then at the same time, too, do all I can to help do my little part to make sure that the best teams get selected in the process.
Well, it's an outstanding assignment. We're all thrilled for you and glad to see what this next year could look like for you, not only in that role, but of course in your role as the Director of Athletics for the University of Alabama. So as we start to wind down this chat, just what are the next steps for you once Alabama softball, baseball, the rowing, everything is done in the postseason? When we get into the summer months, what does it look like for you gearing up for next fall?
Well, and don't forget track and field.
That's right.
Second and third at the SECs. We're really proud of the job that team did. Dan Waters, our head coach, has done a wonderful job. So obviously we got a lot still to play for this year, and we're going to want to support our kids through that. And then we have kids that start coming in right away here for summer one. And so we'll start right back over with all of our incoming new kids, our returners, and hopefully it's going to be a year that looks a lot more normal. We're just continuing to make sure we support them from a medical standpoint through all this, and we're still doing COVID testing for those who have not been vaccinated, but a lot of our kids have been vaccinated, and that's encouraging to give us a chance to get back to normal. And a lot of our staff has been vaccinated too. I've been vaccinated, and really glad that I did it. Feel like I'm doing my part to hopefully protect other people through that process. But at the same time, too, we want to get back to as normal a routine as we possibly can from a competitive standpoint, an academic standpoint, and training development. And so it's nice to see these things. It's nice to see crowds, and it just makes you appreciate it. So we're selling football season tickets with a plan of a full stadium, and hopefully we're going to take that into all of our winter sports as well. So all the planning that goes into that. And then I am going to try to take 2 weeks off over the summer and try to recharge the battery for a little bit too. So looking forward to that opportunity as well. And hopefully a lot of our staff will be too.
Well, that's certainly good to hear. And before I let you go, I got to ask about capital projects. That's what everyone kind of makes sure they want to hear on these interviews. The Crimson Standard we've talked a lot about before. And we talked before about how you had to take a little bit of a pause on some projects and kind of making sure that Alabama athletics went through this year as smoothly as it did. So just curious to hear what the next steps would be for some of those projects.
Yeah, obviously we're knee deep in the budget right now. We're working to finish our budget for this fiscal year that we're on, and then July starting our next fiscal year, we're building what that budget looks like. We did. I've said it before. We had a significant financial shortfall. We had over $70 million in revenue shortfall that we're trying to figure out, but we did not furlough one person. We did not lay anybody off. Did not do salary cuts. I do remind our staff of that constructively. But so we're going to have to figure this out over the next several years. We are going down a few different paths from a capital project standpoint, including the big basketball arena just to my left here, and so that's still something that we have to have as a priority. We are having some fundraising discussions that are ongoing. We have to have a financial model that works. I as much as I wish we had $150 million lying around just to go put a shovel in the ground. We don't. It has to be a financial model that works with the financial realities we're facing, but it also has to be a priority because of the momentum we have with our men's and women's basketball programs and our gymnastics program too. So that's got to be something that we work on. And I said this before, Roger. I'm really concerned as you look at Bryant-Denny Stadium long term. 40% of our season ticket base is in the upper decks, and we've added some elevators. We need to add more, and escalators are challenging because they're in the open air, and there's mechanical issues at time with those that are in the open air that compared to more elevators. But we're going to have to also figure out how to get more of our fans to the upper decks of Bryant-Denny Stadium, as some of our fan base continues to have Father Time, work on them a little bit, because Father Time's working on me on a daily basis too. So we're going to make sure we pay attention to that down the road. But we also understand what the priority needs to be, and that's figuring out what we do from a basketball facility standpoint going forward.
Well, you mentioned you're going to take a couple of weeks off, and for these interviews, hopefully just a couple of months off maybe. We'd love to resume them coming up in August, because, Greg, it's been just outstanding over the last school year, kind of checking in with you month by month, seeing the progress of Alabama athletics, and just thank you for the time you've given not only to the Crimson Tide Sports Network, but to the fans in these interviews. And again, congratulations on what has been a championship year for the championship school, and again, thank you for all the time you've given us.
Hey, Roger, it's a pleasure. I appreciate everybody listening. Chicago Gump always tweets a little bit about it, so I'll give him a quick shout out. But in all sincerity, our fans are the best. The support they give to our teams and our student athletes is unmatched in the country. That's a separator for us. So for all of you who are there, who support us, who are encouraging to our student athletes, who are encouraging to our coaches and our staff, we can't thank you enough. Y'all are awesome. We love y'all, and look forward to, if I don't see you this weekend at the Rhodes House, we look forward to seeing you next fall, and for many other events next year. Roll Tide.
Well, one of his coaches that's having a lot of success right now is Glenn Putyrae, the rowing coach for the Crimson Tide, somebody we've not had before on Crimson Drive. We've had him on a lot of our Hey Coach radio shows talking about Alabama rowing, and now he's talking about advancing to the NCAA championships for the first time in program history. Here's a conversation with Alabama rowing coach Glenn Putyrae. Joined now by Coach Putyrae as the Alabama rowing team has advanced to the NCAA championships for the first time in program history. And Coach, just Roll Tide. What a great accomplishment for your young ladies.
Roll Tide, Roger. Yeah, man, it's a lot of fun. We had a really good season, and I think we were pretty excited about our chances. And when you see your name pop up there and as an at-large, it's exciting for sure.
So now the NCAA championships in Sarasota, Florida. Just what can you tell us about the trip down there and the preparations getting ready for what's ahead this weekend?
Oh man, we've been traveling in style. It's we usually will travel most of our races. We'll travel commercially, but for this trip, we got on the charter and had a quick, easy trip down from Bessemer to Sarasota. The team was super excited to have that experience. Just another example of all the support we have from our administration and the whole department. It's been a lot of fun for sure.
Well, that's really exciting. And now what can you tell us about the races that are coming up for Alabama and just kind of the format of this NCAA championships meet?
Yeah, so we'll be racing Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And the way the regatta works is there's a progression where they're trying to get a true rank order of every of the three boat classes. So they're going to be working through 1 through 22. And we have a first 8, a second 8, and a varsity 4. And each one of those boats is going to score points based on their placing. So the higher you place, the more points you score. The first 8 is the most heavily weighted event. So the first 8 will be half of our total points wherever we place, and then the tiebreaker. So Friday, it starts with heats. So all the boats were seated, and there'll be seated heats, and based on how you place in those first heats will determine whether you're racing again Friday afternoon or you're advancing directly to semifinals on Saturday. And then after semifinal Saturday, we have the finals on Sunday.
And then you got to be proud of the hard work that's led to this moment. The Crimson Tide medaled in all 4 races this year, and I'm sure for you saw a lot of consistency out of your group.
Yeah, I mean, I think like any team, we have really worked hard to get to this point, and faced a lot of adversity along the way. And I think the success that the team has had this year is a real testament to the student athletes and their diligence and let's face it, going through the adversity that everybody's faced, their their ability to stay healthy and take care of each other and perform on a regular basis has been really impressive.
I'm sure it's impressive as well seeing the group of seniors that you had last year. They're able to come back, or people that didn't know if they'd get to row again for Alabama now have an opportunity to be in the NCAA championships. Has to be really special.
Yeah, I mean, that's why they came back. Those grad students that came back this year, and the seniors, I mean, our international students that decided to come back to Tuscaloosa, and leave their countries to come here and compete during a pandemic. They came back for this reason, and that was to be a part of a team that could do something special. And we're not finished yet, but we're certainly excited about the progress that we're making.
Yeah, what does it say about the progress that this program is making? That was one of your goals when you took this job, was to get Alabama back to this point. Now that it's happened, how can it be a springboard for what we could see in the future years for Alabama rowing?
I mean, I think this year the standard is being set, and throughout the entire department. I think I think we're seeing the real potential of Alabama athletics. Every team is got the ability to compete at the highest level because of the support we receive and the resources that we have. And for us, it's recruiting virtually has been a challenge. Because you get somebody on campus and they see everything that the University of Alabama has to offer. It's almost a slam dunk. I think as coaches we sometimes joke that if you can get them to visit, it's almost harder to get them to decide to go someplace else. So we're certainly hoping that the success we're having and what we've been able to demonstrate in terms of our potential as a program is going to be just the start of some big things to come.
Who are the real leaders of this team when you're looking at your student athletes? Who should our fans know about?
I mean, gosh, man, it's hard to single anybody out, when you got 23 people, 25 athletes that are competing for a championship. And, the reality is that when they get to the starting line, whether it's 9 people and an 8 or 5 people and a 4, they're all strapped in together. There really isn't, standouts don't tend to go well in our sport, like everybody's got to be really in sync with each other. I think we've had good team leadership over the course of the year. Georgia McCrae, who unfortunately was injured this year and is not with us now, and Darcy Jennings, who are our team captains, have done a really good job of, I think, holding the team together. And then you have, we have a really strong freshman class. I think we have a third of our competitors this weekend are freshmen. So it says a lot, when you got good senior leadership, the grad students who, all came here for a reason. You get a sense of purpose, and then you couple that with good senior leadership, and then you get that influx of young enthusiasm. It's a really powerful combination.
Yeah, what does it say about the freshmen that they're able to come in, have that enthusiasm, but also do the hard work to earn the opportunity to be competing at really the most important time of the year for you?
I mean, I think the freshmen, this is what they came for. I don't know. It seems like I don't want it to be a trite answer, but like when we recruited them, they're the first recruiting class that we had the ability as a staff to cultivate for a full cycle, if that makes sense. Our sophomores were our first recruiting class, and they've made great contributions as well. But this freshman class were recruited here to get us to this regatta, and they injected a good energy, I think. And I don't want to say our strongest person on our team, as we measure it on the rowing machine, is a freshman, so, she shows everyone, and she's not a particularly big athlete, so she kind of showed everybody, like, it could be done. You know what I'm saying? And if you got someone, sorry, I got something came up on my screen there. If she can do it, I can do it. You know what I'm saying? And I think that all you got to do is believe that if you work hard, you're going to find success. And when you see somebody who sets an example through their work ethic, and then, leads by example, it's really powerful.
Well, it's Alabama competing in the NCAA championships again for the first time in program history. And of course, a big heat coming up for you on Friday. And coach, as we start to wrap things up, just what's kind of your final pep talk that maybe you'll have to the team? What do you want the mindset to be for the Crimson Tide going into Friday?
We're going to tell them to be themselves. You be you, and don't worry about what anybody else is. You don't have to be anybody other than who you are. And, if you're the best version of yourself, you're going to find success.
Well, it's been a successful season getting the Crimson Tide to its first ever NCAA championships, and we look forward to this being the first of many for you and your Alabama tenure, coach. But thank you so much for joining us from Sarasota. Best of luck coming up this weekend, and Roll Tide.
Thanks, Roger. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide, or as they love to say, Road Tide. We're certainly looking forward to seeing the results coming in for Alabama and the NCAA championships. Congratulations to Coach Putyrae and all of Alabama's rowers for a tremendous season and a great opportunity this weekend. Great opportunity coming up for the Alabama softball team, again hosting Kentucky in the Super Regionals of the Tuscaloosa Super Regional. That's coming up at the Rhodes House. So we're so looking forward to hearing Tom Canterbury call all the action. They called Alabama's win in the regional last week, and now we get to look forward to Alabama against Kentucky. And here are the full previews. Again, Tom Canterbury alongside Gray Robertson.
Thanks so much, Roger. Welcome into the Alabama softball preview section of Crimson Drive. I'm Tom Canterbury alongside of Gray Robertson. And Gray, before we talk about the Super Regional that's coming up here this weekend, got to look back for just a moment at the regional. What Alabama just continues to do what Alabama does, and that's win regional games, a 3-0 weekend, eliminating Clemson, Troy, and Alabama State to advance to Super Regionals. And for the first time ever, as much success as Alabama's had in regional play, going through completely without allowing a run. 3 straight shutouts by Alabama pitching, and the Tide just on another level right now.
I mean, do we just have to take a minute to look back at regionals? Because I'd love to take the whole segment if we have to. I mean, goodness, it's been such a fun postseason, SEC tournament included in that, and it just carried over into regionals. It was great to see Lexi Kilfoyle come back, get the start, combine with the no-hitter, or with Crystal Goodman for the no-hitter, 15 strikeouts from Kilfoyle, and I thought her movement looked as good as it has all year long. And Tom, I want to read a stat to you because I've got the board ready for supers, and yes. I went back and looked at the pitching numbers this whole postseason, including that SEC tournament. We're talking, let's see, 6 games, 5 of which are against ranked teams. Alabama's got a .85 ERA. That is 0.85. This pitching staff, Montana Fouts, Lexi Kilfoyle, Crystal Goodman, who've pitched all those innings, have been just shut down here in the most important part of the year.
And don't want to overlook what is happening offensively for the Crimson Tide. Bailey Hemphill with another home run in regional play. And then also a big home run by Taylor Clark, a 3-run shot in the championship game against Clemson. And she's been a real revelation here toward the end of the season, as both she and Savannah Woodard have been put in as replacements after injuries and are really contributing big time to this run that Alabama is currently on, a 16-game overall win streak at the time.
Yeah, I was looking back last night, and I was going through Taylor Clark's stats, and I think she's had about a hit in 75% of the games during this win streak. So she's finding ways to come up with those big at-bats against these really good teams. Again, the 16-game win streak, 2 of which are against teams that were unranked. So 14 of the last 16 Alabama opponents have been in the top 25. Most of those have been in the top 20. So Alabama is playing good competition, and their players who have had to step in to these roles like Clark and like Woodard have risen to the occasion. And I think it's been really fun to watch their development, not just at the plate, but also defensively. Earlier, as everything was getting situated, they were making mistakes. There were errors. A lot of those, frankly, came in the series against Kentucky in Lexington the weekend after Bailey Dowling went down, and they were still trying to figure things out. But man, oh man, they have shored things up right now. They're making really good plays. They're making the hard plays look simple. And I just continue to be impressed by Taylor Clark and Savannah Woodard and this entire team, because they've really come together in a special kind of way.
And then look at what's happening at the top and bottom of the order. Alexis Mack, leading the team in batting average, is on base all the time, which is really helpful when you have Bailey Hemphill hitting behind her. And at the bottom of the order, Alyssa Brown doing a great job of turning that lineup over and bringing up that top more times than not throughout the game.
Yeah, the Slappers hitting a combined 600 in the regional. That will do it, and they're just finding ways to, like you said, just use their speed, create havoc, lay down a bunt, force the defense to make a mistake. And I feel like we've seen at least one mistake by the defense lead to a run pretty much in every game of this win streak. I know that's not right, but it feels like it. And it's because of the speed of Brown and Mack. They just make you have to react and think. And teams have not reacted well when they put the ball in play.
And just an unbelievable stat, an unbelievable consistency that Alabama has in regional play now. They have not lost a regional game, not just as a regional series, a regional game since 2007. 43 straight regional victories, and then 16 straight regional championships. They are the only program in America that has been to every super regional round there has ever been since the format was put into place. It's unbelievable, the consistency that's set at a high level that Patrick Murphy has instilled into this program, again, since 2007 and even before then.
Yeah, and a little bit of background on that stat. That loss in 2007, that was the first game of the regional. So Alabama lost the opener and then won 4 straight, and then has swept every regional since 2008. Swept every regional. Oklahoma hasn't done that. UCLA hasn't done that. Arizona hasn't done that. All of these power programs that Alabama is mentioned with have not accomplished that feat. I mean, that's really incredible. And, we jokingly say you can kind of use almost the ink pen to move Alabama into supers, but it's really kind of true, because it doesn't matter who the opponent is. This team continues to show up in that opening round of the NCAA tournament and play really good softball. And they've been doing it for a really long time, Tom.
Yeah, and as Patrick Murphy's told us before in pregame interviews and elsewhere, it's because they have high respect for anyone that comes in here. If they know any team, if they make it into regionals, whether they be an automatic bid or somebody like a Clemson who won the regular season in the ACC and then lost in the championship game of the ACC tournament, they know that's a good team, and they are worth taking completely, not looking past in any way. And that's what Alabama does. They come out and give 100% no matter who they're playing. There's no going through the motions, especially when you get to this point of the season. And I think that's really something special.
Absolutely. And, I think of the Alabama State team that Alabama saw in game one. You could look at that 19-27 overall record coming into a tournament and say, this isn't a good team. But if you look deeper, you realize Alabama State was on a tear. They had, I think, only lost once or twice after playing Alabama in the regular season. Skylar Sullivan, their pitcher, had gone on a Montana Fouts-esque run through the SWAC tournament, 30 innings pitched, just 5 earned runs allowed. So that was a team that was playing well, and Alabama did not take them lightly. And we have seen historically some 1 seeds have done that around the country, but Alabama just never finds himself in that position.
Yeah, we saw it this year. There wasn't any 4s that beat 1s on the opening day, but there were some really close games, and that was not the case here in Tuscaloosa. But Alabama advances out of regionals and heads into super regional play, and they are going to face a opponent that they have seen several times this year. Alabama apparently now playing a 7-game series against the Kentucky Wildcats as Kentucky advances from the losers bracket of the Lexington Regional. They beat Notre Dame twice on Sunday, and Kentucky will come to T-Town. Earlier in the season, Alabama went up to Lexington and lost 2 out of 3 to Kentucky. Alabama and Kentucky played in the quarterfinals of the SEC tournament. here in Tuscaloosa, and Alabama got a 5-1 win there. So the overall season series tied at 2, and now Alabama, the 3 overall seed, Kentucky, the number 14 overall seed, coming up here in Tuscaloosa on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. What have we seen from the Wildcats here toward the end of the year, and how are they playing right now?
Well, I mean, Kentucky's just such an interesting team because they've got offensive firepower up and down the lineup. And I start with Kayla Kowalik, the player that many thought would win SEC Player of the Year before Bailey Hemphill just swiped it away from her, passing her in batting average that last weekend of conference play to really solidify her bid for the award. But Kowalik is still really good. I think she still is either first or second in the nation in batting average. Her speed makes her an incredible threat that also catches. I mean, you really never see catchers that lead off and steal as many bases and hit for as much power as Kowalik does. I still stand by the statement that I think she's the most versatile player in the entire country because she can also play center field if she wants to.
Right.
So the Kentucky offense kind of starts with Kowalik. They've got a talented freshman in Aaron Koffel who struggled a bit last week in the Lexington Regional, but this is still a good team with a lot of firepower. And, it does help the familiarity for Kentucky because they have seen Montana Fouts a bunch, not just this year, but in 2019. And they have seen Lexi Kilfoyle, and they have seen Sarah Cornell and Crystal Goodman and Jayla Torrance. Jayla Torrance threw an inning and a third in Lexington earlier this year. So it's going to be tough to surprise the Wildcats. But that being said, that series in Lexington was a long, long time ago. And this is a very different Alabama team from the one that traveled up there in late March, early March, whenever that was. I feel like we were so young then.
Right. Yeah. It has been a while. It seems like it was several months ago, but in the same way that it was, that there's not going to be a surprise factor for Kentucky, there's not going to be one for Alabama either. Right. Alabama has now seen both of the main pitchers for Kentucky, Humes and Ballman, several times, again, not just this year, but in years past. And Alabama will know what the Wildcats bring in, even though the fact that Kentucky they are known for playing, switching things around, playing, making some surprises. It's going to be hard to surprise Alabama at this point because the Tide has seen them so many times.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we saw that in the SEC tournament, right? I mean, Autumn Humes had pretty much dominated Alabama earlier this year in Lexington. Crimson Tide came out, got to her pretty early in the SEC tournament, helped out by a Bailey Hemphill home run. So, yeah, Alabama's not going to be surprised. And I think when you've played a team this many times, it is hard to surprise the other. So at some point, it just comes down to talent. And I think just top to bottom, Alabama is more talented than Kentucky is. It's not a slight on the Wildcats. They're a good team, but they just aren't as complete as Alabama is. And so I think if the Tide can just play their game and take care of business, they can go on to the Women's College World Series and beat the Wildcats a couple times this weekend.
And, coming down, it's not as warm in Kentucky as it is going to be here in Alabama here this weekend. It's going to be in the 90s, and all 3 games are going to be played during the daytime. Friday's game at noon, Saturday's at 1, and Sunday at 3. So I think there may be another factor that is kind of in Alabama's favor. They're a little bit more used to playing in the type of conditions that we're going to see here this weekend, because we watched some of that Lexington Regional last weekend. There were people wearing jackets in Lexington last weekend. Not going to be the case here this weekend.
Absolutely. And, I think about a couple things. One, Patrick Murphy has always told us that when the weather heats up, so do the bats. And I thought back to that super regional in 2019 against Texas. You had a tight 3-0 win for Alabama in game 1. It was a night game. It was, decently chilly. Game 2 was weird. Texas won that game. Alabama put up some runs, but the offensive explosion came when on Saturday. I guess that was Saturday. Yeah. Game 3 of that super regional. And that was the game that started at 1:00. It was hot. It was steamy, and Alabama put up 8 runs and lit up the Longhorn pitching staff. So I do think the weather certainly favors the Crimson Tide. It doesn't favor the fans. So if you're coming, prepare, hydrate up, maybe bring one of those little squirt hand fan thing for you during the game. I'm going to, drink as much Gatorade and water as possible in preparation, because it's going to be a hot one. But I certainly think the environment, weather, atmosphere, it's all going to go towards the side of Alabama.
So again, those games coming up this weekend. Alabama hosting the Tuscaloosa Super Regional. Noon is the first pitch. 11:50 here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. The airtime on Friday. Saturday, a 1 o'clock first pitch will be on the air at 12:50, and then an if necessary game on Saturday. 3 o'clock would be the first pitch. 12:50 the airtime. 2:50 the airtime here on the network for Alabama and Kentucky this weekend in the Tuscaloosa Super Regional. Gray, can't be more excited. It's the most wonderful time of the year. Alabama looking to make it back to OKC.
Oh my gosh, it's going to be so much fun. The crowd is going to be awesome. I just can't wait to watch so much softball this week. It starts Thursday with Super Regionals. Tuscaloosa begins on Friday. We hope Tuscaloosa ends on Saturday, and then some Supers will go into Sunday. It's just going to be such a fun weekend of softball. It truly is the best time of the year, and we finally get to punch tickets back to OKC, Tom, because it's been a really long time since we've gotten to do that in the sport.
Has been a long time, and we're excited to hopefully be there with Alabama looking for the Tide to take care of their business here this weekend. Alabama in the Tuscaloosa Super Regional against Kentucky again, Friday at noon, Saturday at 1, and Sunday at 3 if necessary. Hope you will join us on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. That's Gray Robertson. I'm Tom Canterbury. Back to you, Roger.
Thanks, guys, for the reports. Certainly best of luck to Patrick Murphy and the Crimson Tide softball team this week against Kentucky, trying to make it to the Women's College World Series. Well, a lot of people around college baseball call the SEC tournament kind of the College World Series light because you have so many talented teams all in one place, Hoover, Alabama, and that's where yesterday Alabama picked up maybe the most dramatic win of the tournament so far, 3-2 in 11 thrilling innings against Tennessee. Now we'll let you listen in to the postgame press conference from head coach Brad Bohannon, talking about quite a memorable day in Hoover.
Man, what a crazy day at the ballpark. Goodness gracious, in every way, shape, and form. Just a lot of crazy plays. And, Tennessee played a great game. Really proud of our kids. We could have easily folded or cracked after those defensive miscues in the 7th inning. And kids just keep coming, man. That's what they do. This group's as resilient and as good at dealing with adversity as I've ever had. Just really happy for them that they can get some short-term satisfaction today, and just real proud of them. I know we'll talk about these guys, but Jacob McNary just gave us a great start. Chase Lee was amazing out of the pen, and Dio got the big hit, and just a really, really good day.
Okay, we'll start off with a question from Joey Blackwell.
Hey, Coach, you said it yourself. Solid start on the mound for Jacob McNary today, and then just as impressive, Lee was able to get out of quite a few jams there, starting in the 7th. Talk about their performances on the mound, particularly Lee, and how he was able to, follow through for his longest outing of the season.
Yeah, well, Jacob got us off to a great start, and, he's coming off a little injury, and he threw 2 innings on Saturday against Mississippi State and looked great. And really, we're just hoping to get 2 innings out of him today. And he had 2 quicker innings and said, "Hey, man, how you feel? You think you can get 1 more?" And, he did that. And then after the 3rd, go tell him he's done. And he's like, the most respectful, best kid in the world. And he's like, "Coach, well, why are you taking me out, man? My velo's good. I'm hitting my spots. Like, I feel good. Like, I can rest all summer." I was like, "Well, all right, you're going to be on a short leash." So he went back out and kept going and pitched great. And Chase has just been a rock in the pen for us for 3 years now. And, at that point, once Tennessee tied the game, JJ and I just kind of decided, hey, this is Chase's game. And just made big pitch after big pitch and kept his composure when things didn't go great behind him. And just very symbolic of the type of kid that he is.
Next question is from Drew DeArmond.
Yes, sir, Coach. I just wanted to ask you about Dio. I know he'd had some struggles down the stretch, but he seems to be rounding back into the form we saw early. He's had some really big at-bats in this tournament so far. And what did you guys kind of tell him before the big hit to retake the lead in the 11th?
Well, Dio kind of, got a little bit out of whack. We don't talk mechanics a lot, especially during the season, but he'd kind of gotten a little bit out of whack with the swing and made some nice adjustments there and where he can repeat a little better. And, he's just got that clutch gene, whatever it is, he's got it. And, he's a guy that I like having up with people on base, especially late in the game. And, there was nothing special there. Hundley for Tennessee is a really good pitcher and really pitches off his fastball. So we're kind of just saying, hey, get a good pitch to hit, make sure you push the fastball down because he's really hard to hit if you're swinging at pitches at the top of the zone or above the strike zone. So Dio obviously got a good pitch to hit and put a good swing on it.
The next question is from Tyler Martin.
Hey, Coach Bo. You kind of mentioned in your opening just some crazy plays out there. What was your vantage point there in the bottom of the ninth on the runner interference call?
I really think they got all the calls right. I really do. And, I just think, and I'm going to give the league a compliment. Adding video review has just been amazing. It just takes all the emotion out of it. And, as a coach or as a player, all you can do is ask them to take a look. And, I thought they got all the calls right. I really do. Those guys, you don't notice a good umpire. You only notice the ones when they make mistakes. And I'm just so thankful that my profession's not like that. I would hate for coaching to be the exact same way.
Okay, the next question is from James Fletcher.
Yeah, Coach, James Fletcher from the Tuscaloosa News. You guys, like you said, there were a lot of calls where they had to go to replay, and they got the decisions right in the end. But how big was this game and being able to come back from that seventh inning to win it in the 11th for you guys' NCAA tournament hopes?
Well, it's big on so many levels, and you can't win this tournament going through the losers bracket. I'm sure nobody's ever played one on Tuesday, then lost on Wednesday, and played straight through. I can't imagine that would ever happen. So it buys us 2 more days. I just keep saying, I'm not even worried about the NCAA tournament or not worried about winning this tournament. I just want to extend the season. I absolutely love these kids. We've got the best kids in the world from great families, and I love working with them, and I just don't want it to end. I just want some more time with these guys, and that's the biggest motivation for me personally of wanting to win. And but yeah, I mean, you go 12 and 17 in league play, you better go pretty deep in this thing to be on the bubble or to get in. So I'd feel a lot better if we win another game or two.
Next question is from Joey Blackwell.
Hey, Coach. This question is kind of a two-parter. First off, it sounded the news of Drew Williamson on Monday sounded pretty bleak, yet he was, of course, out there late in the game today. How is he feeling? And then the second part of my question is, what's the pitching plan moving forward tomorrow, and if you've decided who the starter is tomorrow yet?
Yeah, so, Drew just got his cast off yesterday, and we put him in to play defense with stitches in his hand. And that'll tell you the type of competitor and warrior that he is. And we wouldn't do that if our medical staff, wasn't comfortable with him playing defense for half an inning. But he's not to the point where he's cleared to swing the bat, but he's an elite defender at first base, and if we have a lead tomorrow late, then he's going to be in there to play defense as long as he's able and willing to do it. I think tomorrow we're going to start Chase Lee. I'm just kidding. He would probably do it, but we're going to start Dylan Smith tomorrow.
Next question is from Drew D. Armand. Drew.
Yes, Coach. I'm sorry. My apologies. Had to try to get unmuted there. But Coach, I know you just said you gave away your pitching plans, but as far as the bullpen, it's really been a strength the first 2 days. Where do you think it is? Obviously, Chase Lee exerted a ton of 80-plus pitches, but how do you like how your bullpen's set up right now?
Well, I mean, you can never have enough pitching, but I feel good coming to the park tomorrow. Dylan Smith's going to give us a great start like he has most every time this year, and Connor Shamblin's still available, and Landon Green's still available, along with, some other guys. So, I think as far as trying to get to the weekend or get to Sunday, it's pretty important to win tomorrow so that you get that day off on Friday. So we'll give them everything we got tomorrow, and see how it goes. And if we're playing, Friday morning, then we'll just kind of see what we got and roll with it.
Okay, next question is from Tyler Martin.
Yeah, Coach, I know you guys just got done with this one, but just what are your preliminary thoughts on Florida, a team you guys weren't able to face in the regular season, a team that just run ruled Mississippi State? What are your preliminary thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, you could ask me that question every year. The last 10 years, I'd tell you the same thing. I mean, it's one of the best teams in the country, uber talented, really well coached. Just they're the total package, and they're looking like a team that's heating up at the right time. So it'll be a tremendous, tremendous challenge, and I know that they're going to get our best effort, and we're going to have to play really, really well to beat them.
Our thanks to Coach Bo, and now we're gearing up for the weekend that really starts today for the Alabama Crimson Tide as we take a look at the weekend schedule. Later this afternoon for the baseball team, it is a matchup against the Florida Gators, 4:30 Central first pitch again. Start time can be really flexible in the tournament, especially in these earlier rounds. Yesterday, we started the ball game 30 minutes early, so make sure you're paying attention to the Crimson Tide Sports Network on Facebook and Twitter for the latest information on the game time. But coming up today against Florida, Friday, the fourth round, if needed for Alabama. If the Crimson Tide get a win, they can advance to the semifinals on Saturday. That's what's coming up, as well as Sunday's championship game. We do know that'll be coming your way at 2 p.m. and want to see more and more Crimson inside the Hoover Met as Alabama continues winning and continues moving forward in the SEC baseball tournament. A lot of Crimson we know will be at the Rhodes House coming up for Alabama softball. Again, the Super Regional against Kentucky with a berth in the Women's College World Series on the line. Friday's matchup at noon, Saturday at 1 o'clock, Sunday, if necessary, at 3 o'clock. Love to see Montana Fouts just pick up a couple of wins early on Friday and Saturday to make Sunday a non-factor. But that's, again, the weekend schedule coming up for softball, trying to win and go from Tuscaloosa on to Oklahoma City. Well, that's going to wrap up this great edition of Crimson Drive. Again, and thank you to our guests, Greg Byrne, Glenn Putyrae, as well as Brad Bohannon, his postgame comments from the Hoover Met yesterday after the win against Tennessee, as well as Tom Canterbury, Gray Robertson for their great detailed report on Alabama softball. I've got to pack everything up here at the house, head to the Hoover Met, and get ready for Alabama baseball. Again, Chris Stewart and I will have the call for the Crimson Tide against the Florida Gators coming up this afternoon at 4:30, so certainly hope you can join us on the radio. And if possible, join us at the Hoover Met this weekend for great baseball after you've watched some softball, of course, back in Tuscaloosa. Want to say a big thank you to Ethan Carabin, our Facebook Live producer, for putting this show together. Thank you as well to our great sponsor, Coca-Cola, for supporting us once again on Crimson Drive here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Until next time, have a great start to your weekend. This has been Roger Hoover saying good afternoon and roll Tide.